Be sure to subscribe to Solutionaries to see all our latest videos right here on YouTube.
The thing that scares me most about driving on a highway as it's starting to get dark, and especially at night, is seeing a pair of headlights coming straight at me. It just happened here in Orlando again, and it just ended again with an awful crash. But we discovered most of the time, at least here in Orlando, it doesn't end that way because of one of the most advanced and best wrong-way detection systems in the entire country, invented right here.
On a typically steamy summer night in August back in 2012, something happened on this Florida road that nothing or no one really could prevent. A driver bent on ending his life drove up the exit ramp and into oncoming traffic on a major Orlando highway, and within seconds met his demise head-on at the expense of an innocent driver, a father and husband. Both men died almost instantly when the two cars collided with the force of a small bomb exploding and burning.
The grieving family showed up to our board meeting and asked the board there directly, we just suffered this horrible tragedy due to a wrong-way driver. We want CFX to look at ways to combat this problem. And it was from that family addressing our board that this really came about.
The Central Florida Expressway Authority operates most of the highways across the Orlando area, including this one, the 408, the biggest and busiest that runs right through Orlando. Brian Hutchings understood the authority had to do something, but what? Where do they start? They didn't even know how bad the problem was.
And then that's when we teamed with UCF because we didn't know, so we wanted it to be research-based. Before we threw up something and spent a bunch of money, we wanted to understand the problem and what was available out there.
There was no blueprint for this. This didn't exist somewhere else.
It did not exist.
It just so happened a professor at the University of Central Florida in Orlando knew exactly where to begin. Professor Haitham Al-Deek at UCF's College of Engineering and Computer Science was an expert in transportation research. Together with his engineering students, they proposed this.
So at this off-ramp, you got 1, 2, 3, 4 signs.
Correct.
Not just the regular red and white wrong-way signs, but special signs, ones that light up with obnoxiously bright LEDs.
At night, lit up like a Christmas tree.
Cameras that capture a car when it drives up the wrong ramp. Fiber optic connections that instantaneously send the alert to the traffic management system, and state troopers' cell phones and overhead digital signs to warn wrong-way drivers to turn around before they get onto the highway. And if they don't, warn innocent drivers about what lies ahead.
So it's like all these things are happening.
And warn troopers so they can get there in time.
It's not terribly expensive. Our whole system costs about $5 million to implement the 65 detection systems throughout our system. That's 55 on ramps and then 10 on the main line itself, located in various places.
As far as you know, does anyone else in the country have anything this sophisticated?
Not exactly this sophisticated. This is a very unique system.
Hutchings says in 2015, when the system started going in, the first surprise was how bad the problem really was.
Before all of this, you didn't even know.
No, nobody did. Nobody did.
Troopers knew most wrong-way driving happens at night because a driver is drunk or tired or confused, or like the tragedy in 2012, suicidal.
So how many incidents since 2015?
1,200 detected wrong-way driving events, and over 1,000 of those resulted in turnarounds. So the system worked by preventing the vehicles from actually getting on the main line.
In the past 7 years, 1,225 drivers have tried to get onto Central Florida's toll roads going the wrong way. The second surprise was that 1,070 of them turned around before entering the highway. That's an 87% success rate.
Eventually, it's going to be a question of why don't you have one in place? Not is it worth the expense? Is it worth the time and effort? You know, it's going to be a no-brainer.
Reinforcing the system's success, the University of Central Florida has documented a 66% drop in 911 calls for wrong-way drivers.
So you have two cameras, so you can see it coming and going. So that was another addition that we had. Before, we only had one camera.
And the Expressway Authority continues to improve the wrong-way detection system, adding more cameras, infrared vehicle detection, and LiDAR that's using lasers instead of radar. But despite all that,
oh my God, it was terrifying. It was terrifying.
It still happens.
The driver came at us the wrong way, coming the wrong way. We saw their headlights. It was pouring rain, and I don't know how they got turned around. I just continued going forward, and I thank God that I was alive.
Sue Santoro didn't think she'd make it here to her granddaughter's soccer game.
My heart started pounding so bad after it happened, I barely made it home. It didn't work at that particular time because I clearly got on somewhere going the wrong way.
Last year, a suspected drunk driver on the wrong side of another Orlando toll road went for 5 miles.
Pull to the right. You were driving the wrong direction. Pull to the right.
With a trooper on the right side screaming at him over the megaphone to stop. Somehow that driver didn't crash. But on the same day we were doing our interviews for this story, studying the success of the Expressway Authority system, a failure. This driver did crash head on. Brian Hutchings insists it wasn't a failure of the system, though. That part worked. You can see the signs flashing red and the driver blowing right through them. But he crashed so quickly, about a minute after getting onto the highway, that there was no time to warn innocent drivers and dispatch troopers.
And of course, they still had the overhead signage to alert drivers, but it depended if someone saw it in enough time before a crash happened.
This morning, there wasn't enough time.
Not enough time. You have to look at drivers' actions when you have hundreds of thousands of motorists navigating all of Central Florida and something like this doesn't happen.
So this is not a technology flaw. We're not lacking any technology. It's a people flaw.
It's driver actions, and that's with a lot of the crashes that we see.
The Florida Highway Patrol agrees the wrong-way detection system is working well. Drivers are turning around, crashes have dropped, and troopers are getting the alerts. After all, 87% of the time, wrong-way drivers do not end up on Central Florida's toll roads. But to get to 100%...
So by the time you get to this point, you've now been warned
Basically twice or 4 times on either, if you do the combination.
What if a driver is so drunk that he misses the flashing lights? Or what if a driver is so suicidal that he doesn't care about the flashing lights?
To get to 100, I think will require everybody's participation. It's going to require the motorists to be alert, pay attention, not to be impaired. And it's going to require systems like this that are continuously upgraded and implemented throughout all interchanges.
There is a lot to discuss here, and we'd like to hear your opinions. Drop a comment below and make sure you hit subscribe to stay up to date with Solutionaries.